Okay, so let's talk about my injury and post-concussion syndrome. So, a lot of awareness about concussion in rugby. They did particularly well, and professional football. Obviously, awareness has improved a lot. Concussion substitutes, etc. As an amateur footballer, all through my life, concussion just isn't dealt with in the amateur game. I had no understanding of it, no awareness of it really. Anyway, so I am 43 years old. I was trying to relive my youth and playing a bit of veterans football, which is for over 35s. Was a fit enough individual. Has played a fair amount of games, a few seasons. Went up for a header. A nothing incident. Fell to the ground after perhaps colliding with another player a little bit. Fell on my back and hit my head backwards. And obviously now I understand that when I hit my head backwards, kind of like a whiplash movement, my brain jumped forwards. I didn't feel great. I banged my head. The game wasn't stopped. I'd say I got up. I wasn't unconscious. I got up within what I expect was maybe 10 or 20 seconds, kind of acknowledged. I can't really remember, but I think the referee probably had seen me have an awkward fall, but acknowledged that I was okay. Didn't think anything of it really. Carried on playing. I'd say it happened after about 30 minutes of the first half that I was playing. And for the next 15 minutes until half time, there were definitely some warning signs. I felt stomach pain. That's what I can remember. I felt like I needed a poo. And I was that close to saying, to basically removing myself from the pitch. Not because I thought I was concussed, but because I felt like I needed a poo. Anyway, I must have thought I'd banged my head. I didn't feel perfect, but I was able to continue playing. And I was involved in the game, maybe not quite as much as normal, but I didn't have major alarm bells going off while I was playing the rest of the first half. Half-time whistle was blown, so we're 15 minutes post the concussion. And I remember when we were getting drinks, I bent over to get a water bottle. And when I bent over to get a water bottle, I had some liquid leak out of my nose, which I thought was odd. And one of my fellow players saw it and questioned it and said, if you got a runny nose or something like that. Anyway, it wasn't a lot of liquid. It was, I don't know, like a mouthful or something like that, perhaps, fairly small amount. It felt really watery, is the best way I can describe it. And I knew it wasn't snot. I don't know why, but it didn't set alarm bells off with me. I mean, if it's not snot, what the hell is it? I've obviously subsequently learned it's something called CSF liquid, which is in the membrane of your brain. And it should have been the alarm I needed to not carry on playing football. But for whatever reason, it didn't set an alarm off with me at all, or with the other guy that saw it. So I trundled on out for the second half of the game. Must have felt a little bit better in terms of not needing a poo, because I don't think I could have got through 45 minutes of that feeling. If I'd gone, I didn't go to the toilet at half time, so it kind of just disappeared, that feeling. A little bit groggy, a little bit dizzy maybe. I can't really remember, to be honest. But anyway, in the second half of the match, I remember I scored a header. So I'd been concussed, I'd carried on playing, I carried on headering the football, and I scored a header. So anyway, roll on the end of the game. We lost. Everyone was a bit miserable, me included. Went and sat down in the changing rooms. And after the game, when I'd stopped running around, I felt terrible. I sat there, I had tummy ache. I just didn't feel right, and I knew I didn't feel right. I still didn't enter my head that I'd had a concussion. I don't know why, just didn't. I went to the toilet, went and sat on the toilet. I think probably at that point to try and poo to see if it would make me feel better. And when I went to toilet, I had more liquid leak out of my nose. Again, I'm 100% confident it wasn't snot, so it must have been CSF liquid. I thought it was a bit strange, to be honest, but I don't know, just carried on. So I went and got my stuff, got changed, and went and got in my car. And something in me made me not drive my car at that point. I didn't feel well. And I sat in my car probably for 20 minutes, doing nothing, just, I guess, a bit tired and exhausted from playing football, but just knowing that I didn't feel right. After 20 minutes, I drove home without incident. I didn't, my vision wasn't affected. I felt okay. I felt safe to drive. So I got home. So now a little bit about, I'm going to talk about the 48 hours after the incident and after playing football. So when I got home, I think maybe I realised something was wrong at this point, and maybe I just didn't really want to admit it. Maybe I didn't want to talk to my wife about it. I don't really know why. I obviously wasn't thinking clearly, but I probably knew something was not quite right when I sat in my car like that. Anyway, so that evening, maybe 4 hours after the concussion, I was sat watching some really cheesy program on TV. I can't remember what exactly it was, X Factor or some singing program. I think kids might have been singing. Anyway, I was watching it. I don't mind watching those programs, so it was just kind of a bit of a normal evening. And I just started crying. So I think one of the stories of one of the acts or something was a bit emotional. Sometimes, it might give you a tear in your eye or something, but I was pretty much crying uncontrollably. Just couldn't stop. No one else was in the room, and I hid it. And I thought, what on earth are you? Why can't you stop crying? So I was probably crying for 5 minutes, covered it up, and didn't mention it to anyone immediately. So then went to bed as normal, without incident from what I can remember. I can't remember there were any issues. Got up the next day. Can't remember what I'd done, to be honest. Obviously, this is going back nearly a year now, so I don't think there was, I just can't remember anything significant that we'd done that day. Generally kind of okay. The next incident that happened was on a Sunday. So I'd say the original incident was on a Saturday about 4:00. Fast forward to the Sunday evening, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, when the first kind of big event happened. My wife and my daughter, I'm looking around and laughing at my daughter because she knows what I'm going to say now. My wife and my daughter wanted to watch a TV program in our front room. We have 2 TVs in the house, one in the front room, one out in the back room. And I didn't want to move out of the front room. I was quite comfy there, and my wife and my daughter were kind of kicking me out of the front room, basically, to go and watch a program in the back room. I wasn't having it. Maybe that's, I don't know if it's normal behaviour or not, but anyway, what was such a minor situation just became a really big one. I got massively grumpy with my wife. And basically, it kind of turned into a big argument. It is very strange for me and my wife to argue, and it was over something completely insignificant. And then I walked out of the room. I went into the back room. There was a small table on the floor, like a kid's size table. I picked it up. First of all, I believe I kicked it across the room towards back doors. Nothing was damaged apart from perhaps the table, but this was in front of my eldest daughter. She saw it. I expect she was, I don't know if she was scared, worried, thought it was odd, but obviously it was absolutely massively out of character and not something I can ever remember having reacted like that before. After I kicked it across the back room, I obviously didn't feel I'd done enough damage and made a big enough point, so I picked it up and I threw it on the floor, completely destroying it at that point. I wasn't thinking straight. I'm going to say some my daughter's in the room, and I don't really want to talk about this stuff in front of my daughter, but I'm going to talk openly and seriously. At this point, I couldn't be in the house. I wasn't thinking right, so I just wanted to remove myself from the situation, I guess, before it got worse. So I picked up my car keys and I went for a drive. Didn't say to my wife where I was going or what I was doing, had no idea. So I got in my car and went for a drive. And it was the darkest moment of my life. As soon as I got in the car, pretty much, I had all sorts of horrible thoughts going through my head. I don't think I ever seriously thought about killing myself, but I absolutely thought about crashing that car. I don't know why. My head was not on straight, and I was kind of scared of what might happen. So I pulled over as soon as those thoughts kind of started going through my head, really, and just sat in a car park for maybe half an hour. And the good parts of my brain and the good voices in my head basically just told me to go home where I was safe. So I drove back home. I didn't talk to my wife. I didn't talk to anyone. And I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning, like a normal Monday morning, and I went to work. Still having not talked to anyone at home, I don't believe. Definitely not my wife. And when I was at work, a regular person, I'm a manager at work. I've got a lot of responsibility. A lady from the HR team came down for a catch up about a few things. I was probably talking to her for 10 minutes. I think I probably told her, I can't remember what I told her, to be honest, but I think I probably told her that I wasn't quite feeling right. So that's my youngest just running up the stairs. So I was talking to the HR lady, chatting to her for 10 minutes. She then left my office and went back upstairs. And then within a couple of minutes, I can remember it really clearly, I phoned her up. And I couldn't remember the conversation I'd had with her, basically. So I'd just spoken to her. She'd just gone back up to the office. I phoned her up and I started asking her questions about whether I'd told her something. Did I tell you this? Did I tell you that? And at that point, I absolutely knew, finally, that something was wrong. And I wasn't acting normally like my normal self. And I went up the hospital. And I was basically up at the hospital all day, had some tests. And very strangely, it was only 48 hours after, but straight away, pretty much, the hospital said they'd done a CT scan. They said there was nothing obvious, like bleed on the brain. And I remember them bringing up the words post-concussion syndrome. I don't know if they throw it around quite willingly at that point. But they basically said, look, you've had a concussion. This is something to be aware of. Everyone has different effects of concussion, but I think they realised that I wasn't behaving like myself. So that's 48 hours after the accident. I'm going to kind of wrap it up there. All I would say is for the next couple of weeks, I pretty much done virtually no work. I tried to work, knew I wasn't capable of it, physically or mentally, really. And I was struggling to do the school run, just 20 minutes walking. Physically, I just wasn't in the ballpark. So my next video, we'll talk more about the medium-term recovery. So kind of going from 48 hours to maybe a few months. So thanks for listening, and I hope you tune into my next video.